Welcome to this session entitled with The Power of K-pop, or How K-pop Mesmerized the World. I'm Jang Lee. Thank you for having me here as a presider. Idol group's music that is popular and consumed overseas. You can define the K-pop as like this. And its main feature is that idol-oriented pop music created by a producer-led production system. Producer-led production system is the main characteristics of K-pop. And this K-pop music nowadays, in terms of streaming music playback language, it's the number third. The first English, second Spanish, third one is Korean. And this splendid K-pop success have made the K-pop a kind of global phenomenon to be studied theoretically. So we have invited two distinguished scholars. First of all, Professor Oh In-gyu, who is so active in Japan and Korea, and Professor Pascal Brazier, yeah, Pascal, from France. Please give them a big hand. As you see, idol groups must be the core product of K-pop, and we can categorize the idol groups into generations every 8 years. I don't know why it is 8 years. It's naturally 8 years. And now they are in fourth generations. I think today's discussion would be based on a recent research result, including a book, K-pop Innovation, written by me, and an academic journal publication. Professor Oh, you are an editor of APBR and published a special issue on the K-pop this year. So could you explain about this, the book and special issue?
Okay, thank you, Professor Lee. I'm In-gyu. I was in charge of this book and journal production about like a year and a half ago. The rationale behind this was because the international academic milieu out there about K-pop and Hallyu in general was to exclude Korean scholars from active research and participation in publication in the major core Western media. So because I happen to be the editorial member of this Asia Pacific Business Review and also had a linkage with the publisher, we decided to do a special issue inviting all the genuine Korean and inner circle kind of scholars like Professor Lee himself, and also our great friend Pascal from France, who has contributed a lot to the study of K-pop by analyzing social network analysis of the fandom. And so the result was these two great publications by Korean scholars mainly. And this is a first genuine and sincere contribution to the study of Hallyu and K-pop in general. And I think this was a momentum in our new research history in Hallyu studies. Thank you.
Thank you. Today, our discussions plans to cover three parts. First, the demand side, supply side, and third is institutions. I'd like to start from the demand side, which might be accessed more easily to us. The main title is How and Why K-pop Industry Achieved the Present Status as a Global Phenomenon. And demand side, I'd like to ask Pascal, what are the secrets of K-pop's successful social media marketing on the global stage?
Thank you, Professor Lee. First, it's of course a great honor for me to speak to you today in this vibrant city, because Seoul is probably one of these global hubs where cultural innovation means something. And it's the point, innovation in culture. I don't just discuss trends in my research and practice with companies, but effective transforming forces that are reshaping industries in those days. Maybe 8 years, you mentioned, because 8 years, it's a short cycle and long at the same time to renew the behaviors from consumers, but also from people in the productive part. And we are talking about not just music, but your industries in general. What better example can we take of transformation than K-pop? It's an industry that transcended music and become this global, amazing phenomenon everywhere. In France, where I come from, I have kids, teenagers, they are totally fans. And they are just part of this worldwide kind of community. Because K-pop success is not just about catchy music or talented performers. It's about communities, worldwide communities. And in my research, I'm doing this. I'm scraping data from online social media platform and developing a deep social network analysis. It's a mix of sociology and IT systems. With nowadays tools, we can scrap this data and see all these clusters of conversations people have. And this is where we learn a lot. First thing, when we look at these K-pop fandoms, it's a group of consumers, fans, we see something totally remarkable. These are not just brand clusters. Le Seraphim, G-Idol, Stacy, they are not just a brand. They are something they take part of. They are community clusters, which means they are really dynamic, they are really powerful and deeply connected one to the other. You can have, for example, an influencer from Korea exchanging with another one in San Francisco, another one in Paris, another one in Argentina, and everywhere. In seconds. We have translators all in our mobile phone, so it's an immediate and worldwide communication. It's really active and proactive. And they are not just passive consumers for that, and K-pop is really a momentum on that. They are not passive, they are really active producers of content, really active participants. They create content out of the music or concerts or events because they share their experience before, in, and after the purchase of music or an album or something like. And finally, they share their narratives, cultural narratives, and for that reason, they really influence the global conversation and drive the brand forward. And they have a deep impact. It can be positive, but it can be negative on the brand reputation itself, or group reputation, or producers' reputations. Second point now, imagine if we expand that. This model can be applied to any type of industries. I discussed with a lot of people in the tourism industry, but also in high-tech industries, in the mechanical industry. And finally, imagine a fan base so engaged that they amplify your message by themselves. They are not under control of someone else. They decide the kind of message they want to spread. And finally, they grow your market without you having to ask anything. This is the core of a community base. So if we look beyond the music industry, I believe that the future of this type of community-driven analysis is limitless. We have the data everywhere. It's available, it's accessible.
Like this.
We can see, yeah, exactly. We can see this example. This is what we can obtain with social network analysis. These little dots are consumers and fans. And you see these groups where group 1, group 2, group N, okay, we have multiple groups, but the main ones are the first ones. This is where the conversation takes place, right? And this is where these guys spread and share messages, societal messages. We have demonstrated in this survey that they spread and they share messages about gender questions, about women's, because the main influencers are women. They are not consumers. They are influencers on key ideas. And this is a good point. Finally, when we see these consumers, we see that they manage by themselves on their own communities. And you see some characteristics of these communities. So we can leverage these communities. We name that piloted communities. But you have more communities on their own. People decide where, on Instagram, TikTok, and other platforms, where they want to discuss. They implement their own codes of discussion, and they want to do that freely. If they are suspicious that the brand want to take part of that, they can just take you off. So they have this freedom of speech and they share all that. But they can, of course, really participate to the growth of the reputation of the brand because of that freedom, this speech freedom. So imagine we can have these influencers and micro communities at the heart of the movement around your brand in this ecosystem. And of course, we can foster brand loyalty, we can foster the customer's experience, we can foster the reputation and resilience around the brand due to that movement that has been created years ago around some key brands. You can see that around some brands in the fashion industry also and in others. And in closing, I would just encourage business people to think about their own industry with these ecosystems, where finally the lessons of the K-pop can be its boldness, it's inclusive, it's innovative, and we can apply them to really build a deeper understanding of the communities made by people who purchase the brand. And finally, I would say, last word, the future of business could be the 3C for me. First is communication around communities. Communities communicate on their own. Second is culture. We have a culture of not just consumptions, but culture of the experience around consumption. It's not what I possess, is what I be, what I develop as an identity with that. And third is co-creation, because consumers want to participate actively to the future of the brand.
Okay, thank you. And we know that most of K-pop fans are female. There are many gender issues. So, Professor, how do you think about the gender issue?
This is really nice because we divided up this whole session into demand side and supply side explanations. This is unique because if you go to America or Europe, anywhere else where there are no real inside specialists about K-pop, you don't hear about supply side at all. They only talk about the fandom. So this is more balanced approach to the issue of K-pop success in an overall study of our, consensual interest. That is why K-pop became so successful all over the place in the world over the last 20 years. Well, number one is, of course, like Professor Lee just mentioned and Pascal mentioned as well, is gender. You cannot really disregard the fact that it's like a big elephant in the room, that there is a woman presence and very unique and particular, and it's visible everywhere. That is 99% of, for example, 99% of the K-pop fandom, the active K-pop fandom population are basically women. So that's a very unique situation here in our study. So what makes gender so important is that it's not just because of women, but because it is more becoming universal in the 21st century. Now, if you remember K-pop is a post-colonial art form, meaning that we actually became, overcame a lot of, hindrance and, a lot of barriers as a post-colonial society to produce and generate and circulate all these Western form of art and become so successful despite we were a colony of former Japanese empire. So it's a very uphill battle, it's a very difficult battle to do so. But the funny thing ironical thing about that success is that women played a major role in here. Not just in the demand side. In other words, fandom is the majority of fandom, K-pop fandom are women, but also the majority of K-pop producers, managers, and choreographers are women too. So that's an important side that we have to mention in our study. So if you read the our Professor Lee and I, we co-edited this special issue. If you read that special issue, we mentioned a lot of gender, so is Pascal's article about that too. So the more important, so people ask me a question, well, what is the fundamental universalistic thing about women in K-pop? Well, number one, it is what we call gender universalism. Or female universalism, meaning that everywhere in the world, women share one commonality. That commonality is they want to become free or liberated from sexism, depression, and suppression of all kinds from male domination and male-dominated society, institutions, and whatnot. So when women in the world unite together in terms of fighting against sexism, they share a universal commonality together that there is a problem in our society that we need to overcome, coming from the realization that there is something that we need to fix in this world. The world is not right, okay? That universal idea, commonsensical idea shared by all women in the world is the fundamental basis of K-pop success and fandom, I think.
Okay, thank you. Let me ask an additional question, a very short question. What are the lessons for other B2C companies from the K-pop case, especially the managing female consumers?
Oh, the implication of this gender or universal female attitudes, or what we call like culture, really. It's just a cultural thing. So we call female universalism as a subculture of the male-dominant culture of society, which is represented by Hollywood, for example, is to educate and provide places, both virtual place and physical place, where women can get together and share their own emotion. And here, but fundamental emotion, no lessons that female fans of the world want to share is that they can overcome and empower themselves to make their lives much better. So, in other words, our K-pop and Hallyu drama, also K-drama as well, were very successful in delivering that message, creating that message, and creating the image of women who are so strong, so powerful, and then overcome the difficulties.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And Pascal, you suggest you explain about the community clusters. So, do you have any idea for us about the lessons for other B2C companies in sense of the SNS marketing?
Yeah, finally, the principles are quite simple. Any brand, every company has got an ecosystem with some communities made by people who purchase the brand and the products and services. So what do these people do is they share somewhere. So SNS, as you mentioned, so we have social media platforms, we have forums, we have all groups here and there, online, interconnected, online, offline, I would say. And these people share comments, share thoughts, share ideas. The only one thing is to catch these conversations with ethical processes, of course, and to understand what do they talk about. And what is interesting, it's an old marketing principle, we can always segment these conversations, not with the classical criteria for segmentations, but with the conversational topics and with whom you talk about. I'm used to give this very short example. We are in a large building. We have a conversation here in this room. We are not polluted by the other one's room conversation, or the other one, or the other floor. Communities are the same. One conversation in one group, just a few links with other groups, but each conversation says something about your brand. And it can be terrible, and we all know negative messages go so fast compared to positive ones. So pay attention to that, analyze these conversations because they say something about you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next is the last part of this session, institutional factor, including government policy and cultural climate. Very often I've been asked a question from many researchers, including the foreign experts, who have been preoccupied with government-driven hypotheses, like has the government support policy played a crucial role in the growth of K-pop, like this? Professor, how do you think about the question?
Well, this is one of the most misunderstood facts about K-pop, especially among Westerners. They believe that K-pop success was heavily contingent on the support from the government. And one extreme example is actually an Oxford-educated PhD wrote a dissertation saying that it was the Korean bureaucrats who created K-pop. So we denied, of course, several times, do not please print this one as an Oxford University dissertation, but nonetheless she did. But again, the problem is that the government is very powerful, of course, and creates visible everywhere, but government is very ignorant about music, especially pop music, as you know. Government is very efficient in regulating and banning Korean pop music, if you know about the history of Korean pop music in the 1970s and 80s. So the success of K-pop is really less, and it could not be less than that in terms of its support and reliance on the government sponsorship. So I would say that government involvement is very minimal, if there was. And even if there was, it was actually detrimental to the success of K-pop, I think. So in that sense, I would emphasize this
Okay.
aspect of the K-pop development.
Thank you. In spite of such a critique on government factors, institutional factors, including the government side, must be a necessary condition, but never sufficient condition. So as a necessary condition, the role of government support and the cultural climate of a country are very important for the development of industry, including K-pop. So in this sense, we need to answer the question, why did J-pop decline while K-pop grew rapidly? And why could not an American idol group succeed like a K-pop idol group, even though, as you know, the US is an originator of both idol and studio system? So let me explain about that very shortly. The USA side, if we speak about the USA, the government regulations in the United States have prevented companies from investing in making idols since the mid-1990s, after the activity suspension of famous idol groups, New Kids on the Block. That groups made a shocking the performance in 1994 in Korea too. But the management companies that in US, the management companies fostering idols and agents companies making money have been legally separated. So they could not invest for making idol. The second is about the Japan. Japan has a culture of complacence in the domestic market. So few companies want to take a risk for exploring the foreign market. So it's Japanese cultural characteristics made such kind of the phenomenon. As for this institutional part, I'd like to emphasize that we need to handle government regulations very carefully for the future of K-pop, as Professor Oh told us. For example, let me show you a very recent case of term of contract. If you see the red box, the contract term cannot be over 7 years. And also, this contract term between the idol and management companies must include activity periods in both Korea and overseas. The standard contract term just before had excluded the period of overseas activities of an idol from total contract term. We understand this trend very carefully. So, Professor, do you have any opinion of them?
Again, this is one of the most misrepresented myths about K-pop, which is a famous thesis, or probably notorious thesis of slave contracts by K-pop managers. The slave contract theory emerged, I think, in the 2013, when K-pop singers, some of the K-pop singers had to sign a 13-year contract. But that 13-year contract was not because of SM Entertainment's pressure upon these artists, but was rather a request from the Japanese producer named Avex. So without 13-year contract, Avex not sign any of the Korean K-pop singers' contracts and their performance in Japan. So here again, the reason why we tend to maintain longer contract in K-pop is because we invest a lot when the kids, the artists, when they were young, artists were not known, not famous. So there is a huge sunk cost involved in the K-pop idol system. So in general, therefore, you need a longer term contract to get the, most of the bang for the buck for your investment. But now the government is doing another bad thing to our K-pop industry because now it's banning that long-term contract altogether.
Yeah, so if the term in red box, as we see in red box, is decreasing, if decreased toward 0, now it's 7, 6, 5, 4, 0, it means to be getting closer to American system. So no investment for making idols. Just before the session closing, could you have a comment, in a short comment, do you have, Professor? The last comment you have?
Well, thanks again for this great organization, Professor Lee, and we need to continue this kind of event, not just a one-time showcase like today, but you need a more fundamentally well-organized, persistent effort to spread our Korean words of K-pop and Hallyu to the West, not vice versa. I think that's very important to us.
Okay, thank you. Pascal, please. Yeah, please speak.
Yeah, just a very short word. It's because of Mrs. Siu said. Finally, I would say just one point. If there is a company who wants to share with us their data, we can take for ourselves the fact to go in deep in this data, in their social network environment, to collect that, to analyze what people talk about, and to give you some, I would say, deep advices on what they really do with your brand. So it's an open proposal.
Okay, thank you. Let me close this session with a short comment as a presider. Through this session, we've discussed about the 3 parts of the K-pop industry. So we could understand that the subtle match among these 3 parts has made the K-pop succeed. Whatever it is, the success of K-pop is fundamentally based on the support and love of its fans all over the world. So responsibility and role have grown as much as its great success. So I think the future of K-pop mostly depends on obtaining higher level of image and symbolic capital from the world, which is closely related to the making real meaning of K-pop, or K of K-wave and K-contents, I think. Yeah, let me formally close this session. I'd like to give deep thanks to audience on the floor and to scholars and 제일 바쁘신 우리 서혜진 PD님 감사합니다. Special guest. Thank you very much. Thank you.